Okay, so we got another Mcfarlane Toys DC Multiverse figure, and this is Lobo. Now, I'm not somebody who's like a huge fan of Lobo, actually. I don't like dislike the character or anything, but I'm not somebody who was like really big into him. He's one that, like, he's been in a few stories that I've enjoyed when he's popped up occasionally, and I feel like he's one of those characters that works best when he's like a supporting character in some way, either as a guest star or as even the villain of the story. And oftentimes he winds up fighting Superman as in more of that villain role. Sometimes they have that sort of thing where they have to work together to team up against a common enemy, but usually their relationship is fairly adversarial. So I probably would have bought a Lobo figure in this line anyway if I'd seen him. He wouldn't have been one I'd be like super excited about, but I'd be like, I should probably get Lobo because he's been in a few stories I really like. I actually really like him on the DC animated stuff in Superman animated series and in Justice League when he pops up on that. Hereafter is actually one of my favorite episodes of Justice League proper, and that's one where, spoiler warning, they think Superman's dead. Uh, and since everybody thinks Superman's dead and they have a funeral for him and they all mourn for him, everybody except for Batman. Batman's like, no, he's still alive. And everybody's like, oh, you're just in denial. He's like, no, he's still alive. Like, it's kind of up for debate, I think, whether or not Batman is in denial in that story or if he actually truly. There is the scene where he's at Superman's memorial and has a nice little speech. Well, probably shouldn't get into that. If you haven't seen the episode, watch it. It's awesome. But since everybody thinks Superman's dead, Lobo shows up to take his spot on the team, and I liked that. I thought it was kind of like almost as if Lobo was in his own weird sort of way paying tribute to his fallen adversary. Like, I'm the only one like tough enough to take Superman's spot on this team, sort of thing. So you got a picture of the action figure on the back, and some other cross the artwork here. You've got the White Knight Bat Cycle. You've got Shriek from Batman Beyond. Some weird looking Wonder Woman. I think it's metal. I can't tell. The print's too small. My old eyes aren't seeing it. King Shazam. Don't really have any interest in that one. And Dr. Fate, which we've already looked at on this show. So let's not waste any more time since the figure. Well, the package is pretty dull. DC Rebirth, it says. They did. I don't know how specific this is to DC Rebirth. Honestly, it just looks like classic Lobo to me. But they did do that thing in the New 52 where they tried to introduce like a new version of Lobo, and he looked like Robert Pattinson. You'd think DC would learn casting Robert Pattinson as your characters doesn't work out very well. George Clooney saw Robert Pattinson was playing Batman, and he's like, "Phew, I won't be the worst one anymore." Alright, so let's, he just had one of those annoying rubber tabs around the waist, getting him out of the package. We see that, and this is actually sculpted onto the back. They have the patch actually sculpted onto the back. These separate patches. Some tampographic detail on there with the infamous "Bite Me" fanboy on there. Got a skull with wings, very cool looking, very Simon Bisley-esque. I seem to have like a little bit of like some sloppiness there. And the thing that sucks about that is, while this is such a great printed detail, you won't be able to examine it in the package because it's on his back. And in fact, I didn't even know it was on there until I took it out. But yeah, there's a Lobo out of the package, and I think you could probably see why I was pretty impressed with this figure and wanted to pick him up. He is really cool looking. A lot of cool detail, a lot of veins in the muscles. This does remind me a lot of Simon Bisley's artwork from the 90s Lobo miniseries, which is probably the thing that like I first saw him in. I never read like Legion or anything like that. So that was my first exposure to the character, was actually in the miniseries, and I read that. But also, I kind of feel like this figure, more than any other figure that I've seen in this line, it almost looks like Todd McFarlane himself could have designed it. Like, this could be a Spawn character, you know? Like, I could imagine. I'm not saying this is what happened, or even what I thought happened. I don't even think it's likely, but I could imagine it happening, that Todd McFarlane would come into the design studio where they're putting together the action figures, just checking things out, like maybe he does on a semi-regular basis. I don't know what his deal is with that, but he's just here doing a visit, just checking up on things. And he sees, oh, what are you guys working on now? Oh, we're working on a Lobo figure for your DC line. Really? All right, give me a pencil, piece of paper. Like, I'm designing this puppy myself, and just real quick sketches him something out. Like, this is what he needs to look like, because it does feel to be like, it feels like Simon Bisley's artwork, but it also feels a lot like Todd McFarlane's artwork. And that could just be because, like, they're coming from similar schools in a lot of ways. But like I said, I don't think that's what happened, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened. You feel me? So he's got double jointed elbows, which I don't know how much good that's going to do, since his arms are so beefy and muscular. But hey, look at that! That actually is a good joint there. So that actually worked pretty well. And he's got those kind of funky McFarlane style butterfly joints that just go every which way. See, so we can get a lot of movement out of that shoulder. Let me see if I can get a little closer to the camera. There we go. So a lot of good detail. Unfortunately, some of the details went unpainted. Like, you can see there's some holes in his shirt, but it's all just plain gray. So maybe put some white or some red in there would have been better. One thing that I noticed about him that's kind of strange is that his face is actually a different color from the rest of his skin, and I have to assume that was a design choice, but I'm not sure why they made that design choice, because I'm pretty sure like Lobo is just all supposed to have one skin color. This makes it almost look like he's wearing face paint or something, and I don't believe he is. These spikes are pretty sharp, by the way. I mean, they're rubbery, but they're sharp. So if I grip it just the wrong way and the spike don't want to bend, like, it does kind of like poke me a little. It's not like this is rubbery. It's not gonna penetrate your skin or anything. It's not gonna draw blood, but it can be slightly uncomfortable. So I think that he's got the funky McFarlane ball joints, but it's kind of hard to tell because, again, just how beefy his wrist is, and there's a lot of strappiness there to it on the gloves. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly where one thing ends and where another one begins, because it might just be the sculpt, or it might just be another joint. And got that double joint to work pretty well too. So his arms, there's a little bit of ratcheting there, but they move up about that far, so that's cool. And they should move all the way around. They're only going to come up about this far going this way because of the vest is going to kind of get in the way. But honestly, like, without the butterfly joint, I think that's about as far as it would come up anyway, just because it's beefy. And you could pull it up a little bit further, but the vest is going to push it back down. So that's about the highest you're going to get his arm to come up on the shelf. The hair's got some blue streaks in it, like comic book coloring, like how a character with black hair usually has some blue highlights in there. His hair is a little shorter than I generally think of Lobo's hair as being, but it's still, like, long enough. It looks like the character. It's not like when they tried to give him Edward Cullen hair. I don't know what happened to that Lobo. I think that Lobo got killed off. It turned out it was an imposter or something. Probably because, like right after they tried to do that character, they realized what a bad idea it was. And unfortunately, I do feel like the elbow articulation does interfere with the muscles in the back slightly. Not that it makes the musculature look unrealistic or anything, but in that, you don't get the infamous penis that Bisley drew into his elbow on that cover, which I'm still not sure if that was intentional or not, or if it just happened to look like a penis. But no Lobo penis for you. He's got like blue jeans, and it's kind of a dark grayish blue jeans. Got this skull belt buckle. Got some pretty cool skull knee pads. Lots of cool armor on the legs with spikes. We already talked about the spikes. Got some steel toes on the boots so he can kick Santa Claus in the face. Actually, I take that back. It was not the miniseries that I read first. The thing that I read first was the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special, where he fought Santa Claus. And my friend Chuck Porterfield, when we were in high school, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, he lent that to me. So that was my first exposure to Lobo. And then I read the miniseries kind of immediately afterwards because I thought the Christmas Special was pretty funny. So I wanted to read more. So let's go ahead and we're going to set him right there. Get a little bit of Lobo's head peeking up there while I take out the accessories. Usually the thing I do first, but in this case I didn't. And there's only one accessory, and if you know Lobo, you know what accessory it's got to be. It's got to be this big old chain and hook thing. So we're going to take a closer look at that in a second. I want to go ahead and take the stand out and the trading card. And this is one where they have it all in one bubble. And I prefer that because it makes it easier for me to take out the trading card without damaging it. And we can see the trading card has the same exact picture of Lobo that's on the cross-sell artwork. We've got the standard Mcfarlane figure stand. Beautiful, simple, elegant figure stand. Something like this should be standard with every action figure. But Mcfarlane does it. Other toy companies don't. What's your excuse, Hasbro? What's your excuse, Mattel? Todd McFarlane can do it. This figure cost me less than a Marvel Legends figure cost me. And it had a figure stand. And it's a big figure with lots of articulation. Now, granted, when McFarlane does a Build-A-Figure, then he bumps up the price. And it's about comparable with a Marvel Legends figure. But I still think that these are better figures than Marvel Legends. So, Hasbro, you gotta step up your game, man. And here you're doing, like, solid boxes where, like, you can't even see the characters in there. And that's basically just, like, a middle finger to the mid-on card collectors. Obviously, I'm not a mid-on card collector, so it doesn't bother me. But it bothers me for my fellow collectors, you understand. Lobo Dc Rebirth. Real name, Lobo. The last survivor of the planet Zarnia, Lobo is an intergalactic bounty hunter that plays by his own rules to get the job done. Though he's fought on the side of the good guys, the crude tactics often put him in direct opposition with the superheroes of the Justice League and the DC Universe. Lobo has super strength, super speed, heightened senses, which help him track his prey across the galaxy. He's also a brutal fighter, and with regenerative abilities that make him virtually indestructible. So yeah, this is a guy who can go toe-to-toe with Superman, and he's not somebody you want to mess with. And on top of that, he's a sadistic brute who, not only does he not mind dishing out pain, he enjoys dishing out pain. And he'll straight up kill somebody just for a laugh. I'm not sure if it's canon to the comic book, but I do remember that on the animated Superman appearance, he said that he blew his planet up as part of a science project, and then he gave himself an A. So, I'm going to take this hand off, if I can. Because I think that might be the easiest way to get this chain on here. Do I dare to try to take it off without using the blow dryer? Maybe I can try to fit it around. I'm going to try to fit it around. It's rubber, it should stretch. This is a rubbery chain. And unlike other bladed weapons they've had in here where I've complained about them being rubbery, and that makes it so it's harder to put it in the hand, this is a chain. So you want it to have a little bit of give to it. A little bit of posability. And you can then fit the chain into the hand, and that's where the rubberiness will kind of make it a little more difficult, but I think the chain shape should make it so that we can kind of twist it and squeeze it and get it in there however we need to. And voila! Now he's holding his hook and chain weapon in his hand. You know, you wouldn't even necessarily have to put this in the hand if you want to. You could have it just kind of like hanging down. But I wanted to have it in his hand. And now he looks like the more traditional Lobo. You know, I keep talking about the animated appearances that I really liked, but the funny thing is he didn't have the hook and chain weapon on that because chains are like really hard to animate, so he just kind of had a big crowbar. But you know, you gotta forgive certain things. If I can forgive Zatanna and Black Canary not having fishnets, I can forgive Lobo not having a chain because it's a cartoon. So, but you know, these days most of the cartoons they make are like you know, CGI models and things like that. So they might be able to do a chain for Lobo and in some future appearances. That might be cool. So, infamously, when they were trying to get a Superman movie off the ground in the 90s, and they kept running into stumbling blocks, like they came that close to shooting the one that Tim Burton was going to do with Nicolas Cage, and then Batman and Robin came out and was a huge flop, and then DC got cold feet about it. And one of the movies that they had actually talked to Keith Giffen, who'd created Lobo. I think he created Lobo. Did he create Lobo? He was one of the guys behind Lobo, like his meteoric rise to popularity in DC Comics. Anyway, I know he wrote him in the Legion book, but and then like some of the miniseries, I'm pretty sure he wrote him in. But he was going to write he wrote a treatment for a Superman versus Lobo movie, and nothing materialized of it. So they've tried to get this guy to crack the mainstream quite a few times, and I think eventually they probably will get him in some kind of big mainstream project that will get him some popularity among like non-comic book readers. Like if they could do it with Peacemaker and make something that you know you could put on HBO Max, they could do it with Lobo. Like I think Lobo would probably be like a bit more sort of acceptable among mainstream audiences than John Cena with a bedpan on his head. So, so, so I gotta figure eventually that's gonna happen. But he was certainly popular enough for Mcfarlane to make this figure of him, and it's a great action figure. And if you're collecting DC figures, you should definitely pick this up. This makes me really want to see them do like a good comic book version of Darkseid, not that New 52 shit. do here's what you need to do, Mcfarlane. You need to pick up a copy of Cosmic Odyssey with Mike Mignola's version of Darkseid, which is probably the best version of Darkseid this side of King Kirby, and do an action figure of that, and bring this kind of energy to it. You could probably even reuse some of these parts on Darkseid, I would imagine. Like these arms could work for Darkseid. You know, so this would actually be kind of like the buck I would imagine you'd want to use for Darkseid, because it's got maybe a little bit more of a V than I would want Darkseid to have as far as the torso, but it's still like, you know, a nice stocky, bulky action figure, and he's gonna look awesome on my shelf with my other DC supervillains. Yes, I'm gonna stand him with the villains. So that's pretty much it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.